When you start to plan your wedding, you're probably quickly realizing the number of decisions you need to make, vendors to choose from, rentals to secure, and contracts to sign, all while designing the wedding you've always dreamt about, and you're probably feeling overwhelmed. From tables and chairs and linen colors, photographers, portable heating and signage, to uplighting, transportation, catering, and permits. The list goes on and on and on. And when this is all new to you, you may be wondering what you're forgetting or maybe looking over. The good news is that you found this video, and I will save you all of the footwork and possible missteps. I've compiled a complete list of everything you could ever want, need, or consider for your wedding. This covers venue matters, ceremony needs, vendor options, how to keep children busy, and some unique ideas you may want to ponder. You'll be able to download this list in the video description below to help you along in your wedding planning. Stick around because I am going to let you know some really cool things I've seen at weddings that made them more unique and could possibly make your wedding more enjoyable for both you and your guests. Hello everyone, my name is Bill Rice and I am a Tampa-based wedding and portrait photographer, and I have owned Bill Rice Photography since 2006. I have photographed over 700 weddings, countless engagement sessions, tons of family portraits, and pretty much everything else under the sun. My focus of this channel is to educate and guide you, future brides and grooms, on how to plan, execute, and enjoy your dream wedding. You can help me grow this channel with a like, comment, or follow. That will help me reach others like you who may be in the process of planning their own wedding. I've divided this list into several categories and what you should be concentrating on in each portion. We'll go over venue concerns, rental concerns, vendor options, your ceremony needs, entertainment for children, and a miscellaneous category, and finally, unique ideas you may want to incorporate into your own wedding. Now, the good news is that when you decide on your wedding venue, they may already have many of your rental concerns squared away with a package option they offer. However, when you book a wedding venue, you may be only booking just the ballroom or the property, but more often than not, your venue will include some of the major items such as catering, staffing, tables, chairs, linens, and flatware, and perhaps your bar. But this list I've created is the mother of all lists, and it may be best to follow along to see if you or your venue may have missed something, or if you are designing your entire wedding on your own and need a great reference guide. First, let's talk about the venue. The main topics when you book your venue are, obviously, first booking the venue itself, followed by the catering, your bar, proper staffing, and the place seatings for where all of your guests will eat and sit for the reception. Staffing is crucial for serving and clearing plates, cleanup, and moving tables and chairs, especially if you are flipping a ceremony site into a reception site. But as I stated earlier, many venues will provide most of these, but in the next topic I cover, I'll address all of the possible rentals you may need. Another two sometimes forgotten items I've seen at venues are valet parking for your guests, and I've even photographed a few weddings where security was present. If you want to hear a crazy wedding story, stick around until the very end of this video, after my logo, and I'll tell you an absolute nutso event that happened at one of the largest weddings I have ever photographed, where there were over 700 guests, and yes, there was security. Finally, if you need help on deciding on a wedding venue, be sure to check out my video titled 50 Questions Before You Book Your Wedding Venue. Now we're going to discuss rentals and all of the small things that you need for your wedding. Rental concerns can be one of the biggest areas to tackle if you are doing most of the legwork when designing your wedding. It's the small things that people may forget that wind up being a huge ordeal. So I'm just going to fly through some of these less obvious things on the list while you follow along. You can follow me along on the screen, or you can refer to the list you may have already downloaded in this video's description. Tables. There are a lot of tables at a wedding. Not only where your guests will eat dinner, but belly bars at cocktail hour, a welcome table where your guests can leave gifts or sign the guest book, tables at your ceremony, buffet tables for dinner, and don't forget your cake table. Once you have your tables done, you'll need to cover them with linens. Once the linens are on your table, think decor and dinner placings. This includes plates, glassware, and silverware. These are the obvious necessities, but let me mark off some of the more obscure ones. Lighting. The lighting in your reception will set the mood. Candles, chandeliers, market lights, and uplighting will make your ballroom glow. Don't skim over how important lighting is. Depending on what time of the year it is, you'll want to provide heat lamps or air-conditioned areas. It would be a shame if you worked so hard designing an amazing outside courtyard for your guests to enjoy during the reception, but you didn't provide any heat lamps, and everyone stayed inside. Tenting is another area I've seen forgotten. Tents are crucial if it's cold, rainy, windy, even too hot and sunny. You should always have a contingency plan for your ceremony and reception site for bad weather. Tenting your ceremony site and reception site may be less appealing, but it could be a vital necessity of the day of your wedding. One more small but essential concern is power. Power for speakers and music, especially at a ceremony location like a park or the beach. You may need power banks or generators to run these items in more remote or countryside areas. The third category is one we can move through a bit faster, and this is the possible vendors you'll want at your wedding. Let me preface this part with saying I have done every type of wedding you can possibly imagine. One where they served iced tea and tacos for dinner in a backyard wedding, to one where the couple's budget for flowers was $200,000. Yes, you heard that right, $200,000 on flowers. Now, there are several vendors I think you cannot do without. In my opinion, at the absolute minimum, you will want at your wedding a coordinator, a photographer, a professional DJ who can both MC and play music, and definitely some good food and drinks and dessert. I'm not going to get into what each possible vendor can bring to the table here, but someone to organize your wedding, document your wedding, and play music and MC your wedding, and where your guests can eat and drink are the bare bone necessities of a wedding. Now, some brides will do their own makeup and hair. A family member may officiate your ceremony, but more often than not, my list is just about every main vendor you'll want to consider. Later in this video, I'll go over some more unique vendors and ideas, so hold tight. The fourth category on my list are all the needs related to your ceremony. The first is the permit you may have gotten from the city that both allows you to use the park or beach and ask people to move from the area you'll be having your ceremony. A quick story I have about having a permit is when I was photographing a wedding in La Jolla, California, and the bride and groom reserved an area called Cuvier Park. Now, Cuvier Park is a very high-demand wedding ceremony location, and when the crew started setting up at the park, there was a huge family there having a family picnic. The crew explained to the family that a wedding was taking place in a few hours and if they could move. The people refused, and unfortunately, the bride and groom didn't have a physical copy of the permit on them, and someone from the wedding had to drive almost 1 hour each way to get the permit to present to the cops, who were now involved, and finally forced the family to move. So yes, permits are necessary, and be sure to have the permit on you for your wedding day. Another nice idea to have at your ceremony is specifically for your guests' comfort. Think about the elements. Providing blankets for cold, sunglasses and sunscreen for the sun, or even bottled water and snacks. Weather is one of the biggest unknowns during your wedding day, and providing some simple remedies for your guests will go a long way. Just set up a table near your ceremony site with these items for your guests to pick and choose from as they arrive. There are a ton of other areas to cover, and I'll put the list on the screen now, but you'll see many of these are obvious. Like if you are buying a dress, you're obviously going to need alterations. If there are pets at your wedding, you'll need treats, leashes, and a kennel or a pet bed. But other ideas you may have overlooked is a refresh station for your guests in the bathrooms at your reception. You could set out a tray containing spray deodorant, mints, floss, and other toiletries to help keep your guests look and smell their best. And it's a nice gesture. Another cool idea I've seen is to bring late night vendors during your reception to spice things up a bit. Food trucks or the ice cream man are always neat, as is having pizza delivered. Just be sure to clear this with your venue to assure the proper permits or restrictions. Activities for children will be the next area I address on this list. Children at weddings will be an entire video I will one day tackle. Many weddings I now photograph are child-free, but most still have kids in them. And when I say kids, let's say 12 and under. The biggest gripe I hear from brides and grooms regarding kids is keeping them entertained. Now, many of the older kids are fine dancing the night away with the rest of the adults, but you may want to consider an area for the younger ones that would include childcare or babysitters and some games or activities at the least. Some weddings, I've seen magicians brought in, face painters, and balloon artists. I would gauge the number of kids you plan attending your wedding as to how much child entertainment you provide, and also based on your budget. But a little entertainment can go a long way. We're finally down to the last topic I want to include in this video, and that is some unique ideas I've seen over the years. Now, sky is the limit with what you want to include, and I mean literally the sky. I've seen hot air balloon rides at weddings, oyster shuckers, bouncy houses, cigar rollers, and fireworks. This is where you can really get creative in designing your wedding, but everything comes with a price. These ideas I would consider to be extra, perhaps ideas you might include if you come in under budget or just really want your wedding to be extra memorable for you and your guests. You can search ideas for your wedding and you'll see thousands of results in your search. So get creative and understand that this is your wedding. Design it the way you want. One final piece of this video is the list I created. It is vital that you track your progress, check off when you complete booking each vendor, and share your vendor's contact information with your wedding planner. Your wedding planner or coordinator will be responsible with organizing all of your vendors on the back end for arrival and drop-off times, getting proper documentation from your vendors, and designing a master coordination schedule with everyone so your day flows smoothly. There are lots of moving parts in a wedding, and a good coordinator will know exactly how to juggle each of these parts to allow your day to be a success. Now that you've come to the almost end of this video, do you feel a little less stressed out about choosing all of your vendors, rentals, and the many other decisions you'll need to make? It may seem like a huge burden right now, but if you watch my videos and download my many guides, I'm sure the planning process will seem much easier and even enjoyable for you and your future husband or wife. And if you're in the beginning phases of your wedding, consider watching this video here. It's a 12-month guide of how to plan a wedding from start to finish. Now, it relates to this video because it lays out all of the timing on when you'll want to secure each vendor and other important decision you need to make in your journey and when you need to make them. Thank you for watching. Okay, it's after the credits and that crazy story like I promised. So I photographed a wedding several years ago, and it was the biggest wedding I ever photographed. Not the wedding party, but the guest list. It was somewhere over 700 people. It was at a church hall, and it was in almost like a big auditorium where they set up chairs, and the middle of the auditorium was the dance floor. Now, the good news is about this story is that it was towards the end of the wedding, so everything was pretty much done. It was when the bride and groom were doing what's called a money dance. Now, money dance is when you pay $1. It's called a dollar dance too. You pay some money to dance with the bride and groom. It's supposed to be money that they use for their honeymoon. So during the money dance, after a lot of drinking, I was up on stage and I was photographing the bride over here, the groom over here, and the line of people. And all of a sudden over here, I saw a little scuffle. And the scuffle turned into a brawl. And that got squashed. And then it started again over here. And that got squashed. And this one restarted up. And then there was another one over here. And there were fights and more fights. And at one time, I would estimate there were between 30 and 40 people fighting at one time. There was security there. They really couldn't do anything. It was bad. It was a bad fight. It was brutal. There was a lot of punches thrown and a lot of blood on bridesmaids' dresses and tuxedos. And it went on for about 15 minutes before about 12 to 15 San Diego police officers came in and absolutely shut the entire wedding down. And all the guests had to leave. The bride was very upset, but like I said, it was towards the very end of the wedding. There was probably only maybe another hour of dancing, but you do enough weddings, you see just about everything.